Yo, what up? It's your boy, the Analog Kid, and thanks for tuning in to the first ever episode of the King Soul and the Vibes official podcast. You know, we wanted to do this podcast so we could have a little voice so that we can communicate to everyone out there. And so we started recording these episodes, and this first episode here we recorded a few days ago, and we started calling the podcast the Vibecast because we are the King Soul and the Vibes, and the Vibecast sounds pretty good and rolls off the tongue really well. So we started calling it that, but unfortunately, as of today, I'm finding out that that name has already been taken by another podcast, The Vibecast, and they also talk about music. And I guess they've been around for a while. They're around 30 plus episodes in. So that leaves us not being able to use the name. But as they say, the show must go on. So we shall be soldiering on, making new podcast episodes, but we're going to have to figure out a different name. We're definitely going to have to sit down as a band and figure out something cooler. I've been throwing around El Vibecast in my head, but that I haven't mentioned it to the other guys yet, so don't quote me on that. So yeah, I apologize for the episode. We were calling it the Vibecast the whole time. Please do not confuse it with the other Vibecast, the other podcast that has nothing to do with King Soul and the Vibes, but maybe one day they'll have us on as a guest. But yeah, here is the first episode. In it, I am joined by King Soul and Willy Will, and in this first episode, we wanted to talk about our background and our influences because we wanted you to know a little bit about what you're hearing when you hear our music, where it came from. We come from all over the world, from really diverse backgrounds, and our musical influences are definitely very diverse, so that's why our music is quite unique. Also, we wanted to talk about our goals and where we wanted to be in the near future and our ultimate direction as a band. So, yeah, check it out. So before the episode, I wanted to plug some live shows we got coming up. Hopefully people out here in the LA area can come see us. And if you're from out of town, maybe you can come to LA just to see us and see the sights as well. All right. So we got the next show coming up is in 2 weeks, December 3rd. We will be in Silver Lake, Kapistahan Grill. It's a great Filipino restaurant there, and we're playing with my brother's band, Kulog Kidlat, which means thunder and lightning in Tagalog. And they bring some really good rock and roll, and we bring some really good tropical rock to go with them as well. And coming after that, our next show is December 16th in the American Legion, Post 176 at 602 Pico Street, San Fernando, California. And this is for a great cause. This is for Team Suki's third annual Christmas Wish Dance. And it's for a cancer patient that really needs some help. And it's definitely for a great cause, so I hope to see you there. After that, we will be in Rock Sands, Long Beach, on December 20. That's a Tuesday. And yeah, so those are our shows. Those are the last ones for the year. So if you haven't seen us all year, hopefully we can see you in one of those upcoming shows. So without further ado, here's the first episode.
What up, y'all? What up?
So for those of you who don't know,
we are a band called King Soul and the Vibes. We've been collaborating on music for quite a while now, and we will continue to do so. We are a fusion of reggae, ska, Latin music. Just to give you an idea, we write original music. We're very passionate about what we're doing. So here we are, wanted to start our podcast, and this is called The Vibecast.
Welcome, everyone. So we just wanted to get together and talk here about ourselves so you can get to know us. Here at King Soul and the Vibes, we've been around since, they've been around since 4 years ago, and then I joined them last year, and then we've been making some merry music ever since. So we just wanted to let you guys know where we're coming from and where the sound you're hearing from really came from.
What up, everybody? This is Willy Will in the house. Inglewood's own Willy Will. And just here, kicking it with my boys, chilling. And we just want to let everybody know out there in music land what King Soul and the Vibes is about, who we are, where we come from, our different tastes in music and things like that.
So just to give you a little bit of background on the actual project itself, Willy, Will, and I linked up about 4 years ago, as Analog Kid said. We were both working on different projects, and which we ended up actually, ended up leaving the bands we were in, and we decided to join forces. And it was a really amazing experience for me because I always enjoy working with people that are equally as passionate about the music. And like I said, Willy, Will, and I started the band about 4 years ago. About a year and a half ago, we had the pleasure of meeting Analog Kid, who basically said, hey, you know what? You guys need to make a record. We were just out there doing shows everywhere we could and didn't really have a lot of promotional material. And Analog Kid, handling business like he does, he said, hey, you know what? You guys need to do a record, and I'm a producer. So guess what? And,
we're making a record.
Yeah, we're making a record.
So, yeah, I mean, when I met these guys, I really dug them because they were into some weird music. Not really weird music if you think about it, but weird music from our time. Like, kids from our time listen to weird stuff. So when I got together with these guys, I was really stoked because they were into like simple tropical dance music like I'm into. Which brings me to our first topic that I want to talk about here is influences that we grew up listening to. Since you're the most senior out of all of us, Willy, why don't you start and let us know where Willy Will got his musical roots from?
All right, kid. Willy Will here. Basically, I'm the senior member of the band, and I have a wealth of music in my head. It's just overwhelming sometimes. I can remember in the late 60s, I started listening maybe to like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Jazz Crusaders, Kool and the Gang. They were actually a jazz band at that time too. And
no shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were. Anyway, my stepdad, he played a major part in my musical education, and he had music from Jimi Hendrix to like Miles Davis in the house, and him and my mom, they listen to all kind of different things. So I got a international flavor of music. But there was one guy in particular. I want to say maybe like ninth grade or somewhere around there. This guy named Curtis Mayfield.
Hell yeah!
And he's the one that made Superfly and other things like that. But there was this one song. It was If There's a Hell Below, We're All Gonna Go. And the conga player on there was just phenomenal. and I listened to that record over and over again, and it just, I don't know. It was like I was just like drawn to that sound. So
How old were you then?
Oh, maybe about, I want to say 15, 14, somewhere like that. And that just made me want to be able to play like him. That was my first major influence as far as my percussion
who was
playing.
his percussion player?
His name was Dr. Henry Gibson.
Right on.
And, man, he's just
yeah.
unbelievable player.
Classic.
You know. Anyway, from there, I got into high school, and 70s came along, and the jazz fusion era came out with Herbie, Chick Corea, John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Santana started coming out with some weird stuff, and but all these players had phenomenal percussion in them. So I come home from school and I put these albums on, and I would emulate them, you know, and that's basically how I started learning how to play percussion. Later on, down to the years, I have a heavy R&B bass too, and got into this group in high school, and we started playing. I remember we started playing Isaac Hayes music.
What song?
It was Never Gonna Say Goodbye. I don't remember exactly the song, the name of the song, but the group group I was in, we would imitate those songs. Later on, I started getting heavy into the Latin jazz, the Mongo Santa Marias, the Pancho Sanchez, Willy Bobo, Tito Puente, things like that, and that helped me. That helped me as far as my playing,
So
progressed.
how did you discover these artists?
My dad, my stepdad, I
Just listen to the records at home, or
the
what?
collection he had was it was second to none. They listened to everything. I mean, Sergio Mendes in Brazil.
love me, Sergio
This is Sergio Mendes in Brazil, '66. Sergio's still playing.
Yeah, he is. He did a concert out here in LA recently, yeah.
He's still playing, and trying to think of Herbie Mann.
Herbie Mann?
Yeah, Herbie Mann. He was a flute player.
I've never heard
Yeah,
of him.
yeah, he was a flute player. But
Yes, flute?
yeah, Las Flute.
Yes, flute, Mr. Burgundy.
Yeah, but he had a Latin band. I'm trying to think of the band. That's Pancho Sanchez. When I first heard Pancho Sanchez, he was in a big band too, and
Well, I gotta say, you definitely have
Unbelievable.
not heard percussion shine until you've heard some really good Latin jazz. That's like
Yeah.
the amazing part of Latin jazz.
And then in the 80s, I was introduced to reggae. And Bob Marley, man, it just blew me away. I was like, wow.
What year was that you discovered Bob Marley?
I was like maybe like 78,
And-
79.
Born yet.
Tell us how Bob Marley blew up in the States.
In the States.
I want to
That's
know,
an
like,
interesting story.
because reggae probably wasn't big at all.
It wasn't
Did
big.
you even hear reggae before Bob Marley?
Not really. No.
Probably
maybe
not, huh?
Jimmy Cliff.
Oh,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Cliff.
Cliff was
Yeah,
the
Jimmy
ori- yeah.
Jimmy
What
Cliff
his-
was
what his hit
original.
Before, what was his hit? What was Jimmy Cliff's hit? It was
It was oh God.
it was the really popular song till now.
Was it related to that movie I have?
It was a movie.
Yeah, it was a
Jimmy
movie.
Cliff made a movie.
Harder
Harder
Than
The harder they,
Come.
yeah, the harder they come.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but he has a bigger song than that. The really,
What-
really popular song.
I don't really recall what
But
the
yeah.
name of the song.
So-
But anyway,
And then how did Bob Marley blow up in America? Is my question.
I think Bob Marley was just so fresh, so new, so real. I mean, the things that Bob Marley talked about, his message, it just translated more than ever. It was more of Bob Marley is like more of a spiritual spiritual type of music. And when you listen to it and you listen to the lyrics and what he's saying, it just, it just agrees with you. And it just it overtakes your soul and it just makes you feel good. And, that's how reggae is to me. And then there was Black Huru and Gregory Isaacs, Freddie McGregor.
Some big hits.
Definitely, even Peter Tosh, I believe, definitely gained some recognition out here in the States.
But then came along this group called Still Pulse, and I first seen them in 1980. I was in the Navy at the time, and I had told my friends about Still Pulse, and we went to go see them in San Diego, and they played in it was a movie theater, but they converted it into a place where they could play music, and we went to go see them, and it was just unbelievable. I was hooked after that on reggae. Once I seen them, I started listening to Third World and Ziggy and
you started looking
everybody.
Into it. That's how it happened to me too.
I started listening to everybody.
How old were you when Bob Marley hit?
Oh man, I was in my early 20s then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s.
What was the first hit?
One Love. One Love was probably one of his biggest hits, because it was an international song. I mean, it just radiated to everybody. Everybody could relate to.
So that was
his
the
music.
first song that most of the people heard of Bob Marley was.
Well, for me, I don't know about most of the people, but for me, that's the one that really stuck in my head the most. Out of all his songs, One Love,
It's a great song.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know, which is the song that really,
I don't know,
makes the career, captures the.
He had so many.
You know what I mean?
He had so many big songs, so many.
Yeah.
And then eventually started getting into ska. And then there's American. I guess I don't know how to describe it. American reggae. Like 311 and Sublime and different groups like
definitely a different
it's a different style.
But they actually pay very good tribute to it. Certain bands out there I know that came out of the States playing reggae. They did them some good justice. Even actually Sting from England, definitely did reggae. But in England it's actually a whole different story though, because England knows about reggae and ska. Yeah,
reggae and ska from England. Yeah, but continue, Willie.
After the reggae, I guess after the reggae period, I dove back into jazz. Jazz and R&B has always been my first true loves of music. Before I got into the Latin thing and the percussion, I love to listen to R&B and dance and, party music, Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, the Supremes. I mean, Motown was just phenomenal with music. And then, of course, Michael Jackson and, all kind of, it's just so many influences in my brain. I can't even count them all.
Just so you guys know, actually, Willie does play a big selection of percussions, but definitely does a lot of his playing on the congas. But he also uses, and this is interesting to hear about your background, because I see you playing certain styles with different instruments, and it's interesting to hear where the influence came from.
Right, that's where that's exactly how it happened. Because there's different parts in music that require different styles of instruments.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and you know what? There's a lot of people, a lot of conga players out there that do the hand percussions as well. But usually, for what I see, the majority are just kind of dedicated to the congas. You see a lot who are also play other types of percussions, but I think it adds a very very unique element to the band, because Willie's not just playing congas; he's playing different instruments and
singing.
And singing, yes.
All kind of different stuff, because music is so universal. You know, you can add, especially this style, our style of music. It's so different because it's like we just took like all different styles of music and threw them in one pot, and we just came out with our own recipe.
The interesting thing about our project that I really like to tell people is that, when we get together and we end up fusing these beats, I mean, like, there's definitely a lot of bands out there who have done amazing fusion with different genres of music. But when we sit down and do it, we're not really overthinking it. We're not thinking about it.
We're not pretending.
We're just, exactly. We're just like, let's play to this.
And it just
first thing that
happens to
comes
be
out
like
is like
this
some Latin
and like
rock
that.
beat. It just happens.
It just
like
happens to be like mixture this and a mixture of that. It just happens to be, but it's not conscious. It's just that.
So you guys are hearing a lot about, as far as the percussion section goes, you're hearing about how the percussionist of the band is actually influenced by like all these different types of genres that, Willie, you were telling us about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it helps because our music is all type of different genres, so it goes hand in hand.
So,
yeah.
Well, any records you want to mention?
War was a big influence in my life. The World is a Ghetto, classic album.
I gotta hear that.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
one of your
That's
favorite?
actually-
That's
all
one of my
times?
favorite
That's
albums
an
of
amazing
all
album.
time. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On? That was a really, really big influence album. Did you know these are albums you could just put it on and you wouldn't skip songs. You just let the whole album play
Yeah,
through.
they change
You
music
know.
forever.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like the
When
landscape.
one hit
of
is
the
good
music.
after the other. Like
Yeah. You just
Yeah,
you just put
I
it
mean-
on. I be submitting and not to mention Mr. Stevie Wonder. He's been a major influence in my life too.
There you go.
Because he's just
Oh, wow.
a living genius.
Oh my gosh.
I
I saw this thing on social media, and it's just this random reggae band, which reminded me a lot of us. And there was just random reggae band playing a restaurant gig. Okay, sounds familiar, right?
Yeah,
guys?
it does.
And guess what? Some dude wants to sit in, and it's Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
And he sits in on this reggae
Wow.
band, just like us,
Yeah.
like, just like a nobody. Reggae
I would
band.
gladly give
And,
up my
like-
seat for Stevie Wonder.
And like
Yes,
he
sir,
just
sit down
sat
on my
in with
keyboard,
them
for sure.
and like played a Bob Marley song.
Bob
I'm not-
Marley was a great influence in Stevie Wonder's life too, as Third World.
Of course,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Stevie did some reggae in his
Yeah, he
songs.
does.
You can
has
tell.
re-
You can tell.
Yeah, he has
there's
reggae
in
songs. Yeah,
there.
but this guy can do anything.
Yeah, he's
anything.
just. I think him and Prince, probably he's a little bit higher, but Prince, those two guys, like as far as musicianship and just like straight up talent, like
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
You know what I mean?
different instruments,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Right.
it's the
definitely like
those two guys are like super talented and just like just music, which reminds me of you,
Yeah.
this guy King.
You,
But
So, Analog Kid, what were some of your influences as you was coming up?
oh shit, my turn. Well, I knew I wanted to play guitar when I was probably 5 years old, cause growing up in that time, like MTV was the biggest thing, and like
What were some of the artists? You remember?
oh yeah, and my brother was my older brother, who's 12 years older than me, is a drummer. He was just all about just rock and roll at that time. In the 80s was just like really awesome for time for rock. And I guess the first artists that I got into were probably just straight up rock and roll. And the best straight up rock and roll you can get is, in my opinion, is Guns N' Roses and AC/DC.
Yeah, those phenomenal.
I mean, it doesn't get any more rock and roll than that. I mean, it started with Rolling Stones and then
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin.
The Who.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that energy, but the highest peaks of those were, I think, Guns N' Roses and AC/DC, and Guns N' Roses in particular was like they just had their first album, and that was when I came to the United States,
Okay.
and I was 4 years
And
old.
you came from. Tell us where you came from.
From the Philippines,
Okay.
and just like when Guns N' Roses broke, and I was 4 years old, and like,
Wow. 4 years old.
yeah, and like everybody else was in the preschool music in like kindergarten. I was in like Welcome to the Jungle and, and like Def Leppard too. Like
Wow.
Pyromania came out.
Ooh, I met Rick Allen, the drummer of Def Leppard.
Oh,
I
seriously,
met him and I got to talk with him. He's
dude,
an
he got
amazing
one arm, dude.
Let me tell you, actually, you know what? I want to give him a shout out. real
What
quick.
about
It's-
like Metallica
Yeah.
and
I got into that later.
Scorpions and all that stuff?
I got into that later. I got into that later. Metallica when I was in like probably 5th grade.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely learned every single song. Like, so yeah, Metallica definitely. I learned a lot how to play guitar just learning Metallica songs and Rage Against the Machine songs. So those two, yeah, definitely big influences.
Who's your favorite guitar player?
My favorite guitar player, I have no favorite guitar
Do you
player.
have like a top 5?
The best guitar player on the planet right now is Guthrie Govan.
Oh, I
and
saw
that's
him
for
too.
sure.
I saw him live. He's a beast.
I never.
Yeah.
I don't
He's
know
a
who that.
beast.
I'm
For
gonna have to
sure,
research
he
that.
is-
Check that out.
And the thing is, like, it's not all just technical prowess. It's just like every single note's got every bit of
Better
soul.
than Santana?
Every bit of soul it needs to have.
This guy is it can't even be compared because it's not really the same.
It's not the
realm.
same,
It's
yeah.
not the
No.
same, realm, but
Yeah.
I will say that him
He
and
can-
the drummer
he can-
Marco are. The drummer
Yeah.
is the best drummer I've seen live ever in the history.
Marco
of-
Miniman, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, from
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really. So the guitar player of that band that we're talking about,
Guthrie Govan. I'll show you some
he's-
clips later.
Yeah,
you know,
sure. I'd love
we
to
got to
see
get
'em.
into this podcast where we can actually watch videos and then comment on it. But
Yeah.
that's going to be
We
the
need
later
to have
podcast.
yeah,
I'm
we
going to
need
have to
share
share with you later. But this
dude.
dude, man, let me tell you, like he is like he's got every bit of soul in every single note, and he can do every single style, like penultimately, like the best, like
Right.
the best.
You know what was
like he
really
can do
funny?
country better than any country player. He can do metal better than any metal player. He can do prog better than
Right.
he can do jazz better than any jazz player.
Wow.
Yeah.
The funny
Wow.
part
That
about
good.
that, when I went to go see them live, for some strange reason, their repertoire was very Spanish. It was like very Latin oriented.
And he can do it.
And they all did it amazingly
yeah,
well. Yeah.
he can play Latin music better than any of the best Latin
You can just
guitar
do anything
players.
better. Like, you just sit
Yeah,
down and do
the
anything
best
better.
in the world.
He's really good. Yeah.
And whenever I see that guy, I just fucking first I feel shitty, and then I try to think positively, and then I can see, wow,
I'm never going to be worthy of this.
He refuses to eat for days.
But then I try to think positively, and then I see, wow, there's something, there's something to look forward to. There's something to shoot for. You can always shoot
Right,
for
right.
the best.
You can never
Well, you
never
know,
learn everything.
I actually,
You're
I
always
remember
learning.
that
You
I
can
heard
always
somewhere,
grow.
Like when you have a group of musicians, they basically have their favorite player or whatever. So basically, they're listening there to whatever music they like, and it just that's really what inspires them to be like the greatest people. That's the difference between the group that look up to people and they go, I'll never be like that, and the people that are like, I want to get there. And it's really within everybody. It's just whatever you decide, you know? So some people get motivated and they're like, I want to be just like that. And it's really what pushes them in life to get to that level, and they accomplish that level. Or there's
Or
other
even
group of
break
people,
it.
yeah.
Or even
or
get
even
better.
break it, yeah. Or there's other group of people that are like,
So yeah,
just dudes like that really inspire me, and not just in guitar playing, but in everything else. Like I'm a big fan of fighters as well, and like mixed martial arts. I do that. I used to do that in high school, and there's this dude right now who's just killing everyone in mixed martial arts. Like the same thing. Like Conor McGregor is like the same thing.
Yeah, McGregor fought. He fought last night.
Yeah,
matter
he
of fact.
fucking just.
Yeah.
This guy, the way he fought, it was like he was making love while he was fighting, and he just like put him away. He put him away so easily, and it's just like it was so artful.
Wow.
And the same way this guy plays guitar, Guthrie Govan. So they're at that kind of level that I want to get to. You know what I mean? Just like fucking like superhero, like fucking like different kind of level, like fucking just like wow,
So
amazing.
You're the guitar player of the band, but also to let our listeners know, you also have taken care of the production, particularly of our project most recently, and you like to do dub stuff. You like to do, you're electronic.
Yeah.
You definitely like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I love music, and growing up, my brother was a big rock star actually in the Philippines. And I got to at a young age go to studios, like full on big studios, and make records. And I see people make records when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and it just stuck with me. Like that's how like people. I don't know, that's how I live.
That's how the business works.
Not just the business, just like that's how I live. Like I just grew up around like, okay, so we write songs now, and then after this we record them now, and then now we're gonna play them live, and then now we gotta go in the studio. Like to me, like I think like that's how I think like life should be, because my folks never worked. My dad never worked a day. Like when I was born, he was retired by the point I was born, and he never worked, so I never saw anyone work. The only work that I saw was just like straight up band shit. Like ever since I was like a young kid, all I knew is like, so you write the songs, and then you record them, and then you play them live, and then you do the same thing all over again. Like you just do that cycle. And so yeah, ever since
how did you learn how to record and and
because
mix and all that stuff?
Since nobody was doing it for me, I had to do it for myself, because like my brother's band, they had an engineer when they had to record, they had a producer, but
you're talking about
Wolfgang, yeah,
right,
which
look
is
him up,
one of
guys.
the check him out. It's one of the best rock music from the Philippines, and it's in English, so you could definitely
and I've
get
seen
into
his
it.
brother Wolf playing on the drums.
So basically, it was on the job training for you. You looked at these guys and see how they did it.
It was so easy.
Yeah.
And I was growing up just doing, watching these guys doing it, pressing the buttons and tweaking the knobs. And by like 12 years old, I was behind the desk, like fucking. I'm like, no, this needs that. This needs that. So yeah, making records is like breathing for me. I love it more than anything, and I really want to make a lot of art with these two guys right here, for sure.
So anyway, guys, when I met King Soul, he was a drummer in this other band, right? So we hooked up. When we hooked up, he was a bass player. And now, folks, he's a keyboard player. So my question to you, who's your influences, and how the heck did you get to being so talented and
Okay, you know how people have a midlife crisis. When I was like maybe about 14 or 15, I remember sitting in the back of the car, like kind of depressed. Like I'm like, what instrument am I gonna pick? Because by that time I had played about 3 or 4 different instruments. Now I had
Okay.
these bands that were just in every band. Like I liked, in this band I like the keyboard player. Like in the Doors, I love the way Raymond Zarek plays. Like hands down. If I'm thinking about a drummer, I think about another band. Like, like back in that day, around that time, it was probably I wasn't exposed to other stuff, but I was listening to a lot of like Mana, and their drummer is actually a really good drummer. Now
sure.
I could see like his style for what it is, and it's very interesting because later on I found out about Stuart Copeland, and I was like, whoa, that's the real thing right there.
Wait. You're like, we need to start like ground zero. Ground zero as far as music is concerned. Yeah.
Ground zero. All right.
Yeah.
Where you from?
Okay, yeah, I'm from Jalisco. So I was just trying to say that, throughout my whole life, I picked out different instruments. The first time that I remember ever really trying to make music was with singing. Like when I was a kid, I used to try to sing. But growing up, my first influences and teachers were my family members. Like my dad was a musician. My grandpa, he is still a musician. And that's really what I grew up with in the very early stages of my life. And they played covers. But my
so your dad's dad, and then your dad.
No, my mom's dad and my dad.
Oh, okay.
My mom's dad, and because it's a long story basically, but my mom's dad and my dad are almost the same age, so they grew up in the same generation of music, and they were all about when my dad was young, when my grandpa was young, they were all about rock and roll, but old school rock and roll. You know what I'm saying, like rockabilly and stuff like that. So they were basically covering a lot of that music, but by the time I was born, they were doing a little bit of everything. And I mean, you gotta think about me at my early stages in Mexico. I was listening to a lot of music from out there. Cumbia, banda, corridos, mariachi, everything, norteño, everything that's playing down there, I was listening to. And my dad and my grandpa were both covering all those genres. Like they played everything. They played every type of traditional music that was out there. So that's really what I grew up with.
But did they get you into English music yet?
They did, because it was almost like it was almost like this I want to say this not very blatant thing that my grandpa was into rock and that was their main things. It wasn't until later I started going through family pictures. I'm like, damn, my dad looks just like Johnny Cash right here. What the hell is going on? He's got the same guitar and everything. And, I found out they were into that type of music.
Right.
Elvis, and that was not really what they were playing, though, when I was growing up. Like I said, they were playing other types of region, local music from there. And once I started growing up, I found out about their rock history, and it automatically made me go, it clicked in my head. I'm like, that's why I like bands like the Beatles. But one of the first bands I got to give due credit to are the Doors. And that's really what inspired me first to learn how to play anything, because I started playing drums and piano at the same time to the Doors covers. Then later on in my life, I started getting so I had that background of the traditional Mexican music that I grew up around, and it wasn't until later in my life that I started exploring out of those realms. I'm like, okay, my grandpa was into rock. He covered the song from CCR. Who are those guys? And I started looking into it. I'm like, oh man, this music is amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
by the way, you're mentioning some really good names that are also in both of our influences as well. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Those names definitely resonate with me as well. Like Elvis and what else did you mention? CCR.
CCR,
Hell yeah.
I mentioned, And I actually learned how to play drums to the Beatles' #1 record. That's the first record I ever learned how to play drums.
Dude, if you ask me, those as far as songwriting is concerned, that is gold.
Yeah.
I mean, Beatles
I
won.
felt very privileged.
Those
to
are the
be
hits of the Beatles.
Yeah.
You sit and think for a second what that means. That statement. The hits
all
of the Beatles. You know what I mean? Those shaped what reality is for pretty much what the free world is.
Probably one of the greatest bands there ever was in life.
Their music called out to me, and this other music that I hadn't really grown up with. So it was a bit different because I wasn't out here in California until I wasn't living out here till I was about 9 years old. So for the first 9 years of my life, grew up with nothing but traditional music. Then I came over here, and I'm looking for music to listen to, and I'm, because going back to like my roots with my grandpa and my
How old
dad,
were you when you came out here?
I was 9, and I bought my first Doors CD. It was really funny. We went to like a record store, and my first CD ever that I owned was Doors. Waiting for the Sun.
Wow.
That's what I chose.
Did your dad get you into it?
No, I actually got into it myself because one time somebody was watching in the living room the movie, and I was in the room when they were watching the Doors movie, the Oliver Stone film.
Yeah,
and the songs just stuck in my head, and they haunted me. They haunted me. I was like, I have to find out who are the people making this music, and it was weird. It just like it stuck to me. I was like, I gotta find out about these guys. You know what? Last year, I got the privilege to meet John Densmore in person. And it was just such a nerve-wracking moment for me because I was like, I've looked up to this guy since I was like 9. Because I tried playing first drums to the Doors music, and then I started learning the songs on the keyboard. I was like, oh, all right, I figured out Light My Fire. I'm like playing Light My Fire by self-taught, no teacher, nothing. So that was pretty much the story of my life. Like, I got into that realm of rock, and I started looking into like Jimi Hendrix and Santana and Bob Marley. It was like the 60s, 70s psychedelic music,
Pink Floyd,
yeah.
Nice,
so,
dude.
Yeah, that's what I got immersed into when I was like a young teen. Yeah,
you got some rock in you.
So you're watching this whole process. Like, if you're following it from the beginning. I heard cumbias, mariachi, norteño.
You're straight up Latin, hot-blooded brown music, and then you get some rock into you.
And
How old were you then? 15?
I was like 15, like 14 or 15. And a funny thing about it is I listened to some very good tropical music when I was young because of my dad. My dad is a tropical music freak. Like, he's like, that's all he's about. And he plays everything, but that's his main that's where
thing.
His heart is. Yeah, it's like tropical music. So I grew up listening to people like Tito Puente, Pérez Prado, like the best, Latin, jazz musicians that you can think about from back in that day. And when I would hear Santana and other types of Latin music later on in my life, like on the rock side, like I heard the similarities, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. So if I want to play Santana, all I have to do is play that Pérez Prado beat, that mambo beat that I learned, and it's like the same thing,
Right.
Yeah.
So Latin rock, that's how it came about. And the last stage I want to talk about, reggae. Reggae was actually discovered unintentionally because, like I said, I started getting into that realm of music. Well, researching of, looking into basically like older bands like Jimi Hendrix and
you got into Bob Marley.
Led Zeppelin. Yeah, Bob Marley came up in that. And I heard the reggae, and I heard like the Legend album, and I was just like, it was like the same thing as the Doors, but it was a different vibe. It was like a different type of like, I want to follow that music in the rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like and that's how I've become now prone to doing that, because it's really funny. Actually, like sometimes when we're all jamming in the studio, we're all sitting there jamming, and they'll pick up some like funk beat or some like rock beat, and when I get on the keyboard, it somehow either goes like Latin oriented or like reggae oriented, and that's the balance of the band, and that's where that came from, basically. And like I said, I heard reggae, and then Bob Marley was like, I was just like stuck on Bob Marley. Went to one of my friend's house.
I guess people get stuck on Bob Marley for a couple of years. They're like,
there's
nothing else in reggae.
Yeah, because
then they actually dive into it.
It takes you a while. You know what happened with me is a friend's uncle had this collection of a lot of reggae ska, like basically like a whole bookshelf of like nothing but reggae and ska music. And one day I was like, can I download all that music? And he's like, yeah, sure. I took my laptop, I started getting his CDs. I ended up with the Specials and Jimmy Cliff.
Special.
Yeah, Jimmy.
And for different genres and different like generations,
different
of reggae
styles.
And ska. Yeah, different styles. Like I said, like Jimmy Cliff, the Scatolites, Peter Tosh, and I had Desmond Decker, all the Israelites, all that stuff, and like all that old school music, I put it in my laptop, and I literally, for probably like 2 good years of my life, sat there and like smoked a lot of herb and listened to that music and let it sink in. Like, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Wow.
I mean, anybody who gets in deep into reggae, like anybody who does that, like they're like guaranteed cool. Like you don't do that and come out of the other side an asshole. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't do that and come out the other side a weirdo. Like everybody who does that and like gets in deep with reggae is usually a cool ass person.
I noticed nobody mentioned rap.
Oh yeah,
so
that was my thing. Actually,
influences. Yeah, rap was heavy.
Let me tell you,
that was
rap was heavy with mine.
I would be a poser if I didn't admit that I recently discovered good rap, because I just never really grew up around that type of music. But when I listened to it, I loved it. I'm like, hell yeah, you know. Especially hearing some of the older stuff.
I mean, I mean, when I was growing up, it was a little bit too much, and like being like a person that actually listened to other music, like a lot. I got some flack, you know, for being actually a musician and being into rock and being into jazz and shit.
Right? Hey,
because like rap was like the thing.
Yeah,
when I was growing up, rap was the thing.
When I was in middle school, it was Eminem.
Right.
Everybody was crazy about Eminem.
Exactly.
You know,
But I'd be crazy to say that there's not some good rap that influenced my music, because growing up, I definitely, listened to a lot of rap growing up.
NWA.
That was a little bit older than me. When I came up, the big thing was Bone Thugs and Harmony. They had a big ass.
Oh,
hit.
really?
And then when I was in high school, it was Tupac and Biggie. Right. And then after that, still in high school, fucking Eminem broke out.
No, for me it was like Curtis Blow.
That's
the old school rap
of rap.
I remember when Wu-Tang came along. Oh God!
Wu-Tang was around in my period too, but very
Tribe Called Quest. You know,
Tribe.
Unfortunately, I didn't find out about hip hop until later in my life, because I remember when I was in high school, people would be bumping their hip hop and they look at me like, "Yeah, this shit. Oh, he's a rocker. He's like,
yeah.
He doesn't know about
that.
You know?
Exactly. That's exactly what I got.
I was in the jazz when I was in high school, so I kind of like.
But in the 70s, jazz was cool.
Yeah, jazz was real cool.
Like cool people were into it.
Yeah,
we're into like guitar jazz too. You know how like guitar jazz is like so uncool and stuff, but like it was actually cool. Like cool people like were into it, like jocks and stuff. Can you believe that?
That's interesting, dude.
Yeah,
that's
was very
70s
popular.
are the shit. I'm telling you. I was telling these guys earlier. You can go and rent the shittiest fucking B movie from the 70s. It'll be shitty as fuck, but the music will be awesome. I guarantee you.
It was a good time for music. For
It was. It was definitely black. How do you say it? Black
exploitation.
Yeah, exploitation time. You know,
that was some
we were
man.
we were all pimps and prostitutes back then. We didn't, wasn't playing major roles like it is now. But
even
you
the kung
gotta start
fu,
from somewhere.
Listen to some watch kung fu movies from the 70s. You'll hear the fucking best funk you'll ever hear. Just like straight up like psychedelic shit, like horror movies from the 70s. Like you'll be surprised.
So is that what they use in like 80s porn, 70s music, like that? Like really?
I don't know about the porn. I never really heard
really
good
that?
porn funk.
you know the best to get it on. You know about that.
I haven't heard much. I haven't really heard good porn funk.
He's like, the last time I checked,
it's just like shitty fucking shit. But like
the music that came out of the 70s was amazing, though. I mean, like you can think of every genre, and there was just a lot of good people that were representing that genre at the time. And I think that's actually what we're trying to accomplish as a band, is definitely we're trying to be natural about the versatility of the music that we play, but we also want to be. We would like to be somebody that discovers something new. I mean, like it's just like to a lot of bands, that's a pretty huge inspiration is to be able to do that. Like I did something that, and you can think about the most basic thing. There's something that some of these big bands that are not very like you might say, oh, they sound like this other band, but really they do something that just makes them them. And because of that, you think about a hit song. Because of that, way that he did that, they recorded that music or they performed that music. This song basically became a footprint in history, and it's always because it's something new.
Yeah, like James Brown.
Something new.
When James Brown first came out, his sound was so unique and so
new. That movie was
new.
amazing, by the way.
And
Yeah,
James,
I agree.
James Brown actually was, he introduced rap, he introduced funk, all that, just because his music was so different.
There wouldn't be a Michael Jackson. There wouldn't be a Prince if there wouldn't be
no
a
James Brown. Yeah.
There wouldn't be a Bruno Mars. There wouldn't
Right.
be a...
Yeah, you know what? Actually, that's funny because I remember that. So we were talking about it, and like Willy's been exposed to a lot of different genres. Basically, I'm hearing a lot of jazz, definitely influenced. When you think about Analog Kid, I could tell this guy is a rocker at heart. And
he's a rocker.
He's an amazing guitar player. And he can play different styles, but I can see where his heart lies, and I think that he definitely really, really enjoys. Just like there's some genres, like it's different for everybody, But the good thing about it is when we get together and sit down and write music, there is no limitation of like what type of styles we're gonna play. But it's interesting to see where everybody comes from because truth be told, when I first started playing drums, I was kind of like playing Beatles behind like my family's like like on my own, like all secretively, and then walk in the room and start playing those Latin beats. Hey, you better get on that cumbia beat. I'm like,
yeah,
I mean, like, so but that's basically where I came from. So to see all that versatility is interesting. If you guys go to our website kingsoul.net, there's links for our Facebook, our YouTube, and our Instagram there, and go check out the music. It's definitely something that we're very passionate about. We feel very good about, and this is we wanted to tell you guys about what we're doing right now because we feel like we're on the verge of joining a movement that's already happening, and we're taking the music side of it. That's basically everybody, there's different arts that have their moment to thrive, and I feel like right now is a really good time for where we are all at individually, like musically, coming from different backgrounds, coming from different, upbringings. We're sitting down at the studio, and it's just this beautiful chemistry that I'm sure a lot of fans out there would understand.
For those of you guys out there that didn't get a chance to enjoy our music this year, shame on you. Shame on you. We did so many venues, so many live performances. But
there's going to be people that's going to be listening to this 10 years from now.
Yeah,
there's
that's
going to be
true.
a little kid that's just going to be discovering our music. And they're going to be discovering that we made a podcast. He's going to listen to this.
Yeah.
It's probably
Straight up
20
from
years from
Panorama
now.
City.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So you got to be talking to them, too. What would you say to them?
I would say to them, just, if you didn't get a chance to enjoy our music and just enjoy us, for the people that we are, it's only going to get greater. It's going to get better for years to come. We ain't going nowhere. It's just going to get stronger and stronger. We're just like in the beginning stages of what we really want to accomplish as far as music goes. We're still trying to figure everything out, but so far it's looking like sky's the limit. So I just want to just hang in there, get people out there, and with nothing but goods coming.
Cool. Any last words about music?
Well, we'll definitely be wanted to tell our listeners that there will definitely be some musical guests in the future that will share their stories. And for now, we wanted to share our story of how we came to be this band that we're at. And we're out here in Southern California, and pretty soon we're going to go
and see you
explore other places.
wherever
We're going
you're
to come
at.
to your neighborhood, but right now it's taking off. We're getting that ship ready for takeoff, and now you understand where it comes from. So if you do get a chance to go to our website and listen to our music, or however on YouTube, definitely know that we were just coming from different backgrounds to put something that is coming from really, really, really deep place in our soul. And I urge for future listeners and current listeners to do that for themselves. Find out what it is that makes you feel like that, how we feel good about this mission that we're on, and go for it. Don't let anything stop you. And right now is a very challenging time for people to be united. But I think that right now, music can bring people together. Different things can, love can bring people together. It's a beautiful time to unite and focus on the beautiful things of life. And to us, that's art. It's making what we do is, the music that we make. So find out what it is for you and enjoy doing it, my friend.
I just want to say to everybody out there, peace and love to everybody. And also, the holidays are coming, so let's have a merry, merry time.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the first episode of the Vibecast. It's your boy, the Analog Kid, and I'll see you next time.